Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Identity Insights by Indicio. I'm your host, Tim Spring, and today I'm joined by Indicio software engineer Colton Wolkins and Deputy CTO Sam Curren, and they're here to discuss the recent progress made on DIDComm and the new interactive demonstration that's available. Thank you both for joining me today. Would you mind starting us off with a quick introduction of yourselves?
Certainly. My name is Colton Wolkins, and I have been doing software engineering my entire life. It's been a hobby turned into my career, and always been able or wanting to work on the future of technology, and that's what we're working on today.
Sam Curren, I'm the deputy CTO, and I'm an architect at Indicio. My involvement with the DIDComm community spans back into its origins within the Aries community, but also with the DIDComm spec working group at the Decentralized Identity Foundation, where that spec was grown and finalized, and where DIDComm work is happening going forward. So I've been involved for a long time, and it's really cool to see how much it's grown and changed and evolved and become thoroughly awesome.
Nice. Well, no, it's very good to have both of you. Appreciate you making the time to talk to me today. So I'm going to start you off with kind of a leading question because I know what we're talking about, obviously, but what is the latest with DIDComm?
The DIDComm V2 spec was finalized a while ago. It's been pretty stable, but the adoption has been a little bit slow. The reason it's been slow is because the primary community that has used DIDComm before is still using DIDComm V1 for mostly just speed of development reasons. That's a Hyperledger Aries community. There's a lot more folks that are joining straight to DIDComm V2, which is the more natural path to join today, and so our efforts in recent months have been around improving the documentation and the ability to teach people about DIDComm and help them understand what it is as they're coming online with it, to help those that are seeking to adopt DIDComm. And so the spec itself has been relatively stable, but we hadn't put enough efforts into teaching materials and into marketing and other sorts of things like that. And so we have some cool stuff to show today that's a result of those efforts, is working to create tools to help people learn and understand the technology and what it does.
Sounds good. So is it particularly difficult to switch from V1 to V2, or it's just because they've already have it? What is
It's mostly because they have it and it works. Is why the Hyperledger Aries community is only now sort of beginning more serious efforts to transition. V1 worked, but it's not as nice as V2. If you're going to pick up something to adopt, V2 is definitely what to adopt. And so it's not that it's hard. It's just that what they have already works, and there's a whole bunch of production systems already using Aries code bases. And so the migration of something to to a newer version just naturally takes a little bit longer under those conditions.
all right? That's fair. So why was a demonstration kind of decided as the way to go?
So I need to place blame in the appropriate places. I was lamenting in a conversation inside of Indicio that it would be really great if we just had a way where people could like see how this all works like in a browser, and they didn't have to like install anything and whatever else. And Daniel Bloom is largely a guilty party here. He heard my ranting about that and couldn't sleep one night, and by morning had the most the basic framework of what we're about to see created. And that was subsequently worked on by Colton and Daniel and also Micah on our team. And so my contribution to this is mostly complaining about things, and then all of the actual productive work was done by Daniel and Colton and Micah. And so that came about lamenting the lack of something like this, and now we have something like this due to the fantastic efforts of those I've blamed for our progress.
Awesome. I mean, well, if it works, I see no reason why not. Um, I would love to see it if we could possibly show, the people at home what the demonstration looks like.
Yeah, certainly. And as Sam went ahead and mentioned, Daniel came up with this just one night per se. Came up with the basic framework, and ever since then, we have worked to build what you see before us here today. I have it open in two different browser windows, two different tabs. This is the DIDComm demo. We've been having a lot of fun working on this project. And to describe briefly what we've got going on, up in the top, we can see each of these. One's named Alice, one's named Bob, and next to them, they have this did peer that is truncated. This is the connection identifier that can be used to connect to varying agents, or in this case, connect to the demo itself. So if I click on the copy button for Alice's did, copy it to my clipboard, and add a new contact over here at Bob, paste in Alice's did, and it's got a bunch of information in here that's encoded, things like the the signing keys, the encryption keys, and where to find the other agent. So if I hit save here, you'll see that they've already recognized each other. I can open this up and see both Alice and Bob, and they've exchanged messages here on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, we can see the raw messages that they exchanged. And if I say, hello, Alice, we can see that Alice receives a message from Bob saying, hello, Alice.
DIDComm itself is a technology that allows any two parties with a DID to securely communicate with each other. And so the messages are created using useful semantic information and encrypted and then transferred to the other party where they're decrypted and they can work. The view here on the right-hand side of each of the screens that Colton is showing is the decrypted view. Because we're trying to help people understand, but the messages are actually passed in an encrypted form. And if you go dive into the source code or go and kind of use browser tools to inspect what's going on, you can see the details there. But this tool helps you to sort of see the basics of what's actually happening back and forth. So Colton, you showed between two browser tabs. Is it required that you do this within two tabs on the same computer?
Actually, no. So you and we're not even in the same office. We're both in our own home offices. And if I take this did from Bob here, I copy that to my clipboard, and I paste it, or I send it over your way, you should be able to take that.
Yeah, so I'm copying that out of the chat. And I'm not going to screen share here, but you'll see what happens. I copied that out of the chat, and I have done the same add did that Colton just did. And you'll see a new contact show up on Colton's screen there.
Yep, and here I am looking at Sam, which we just got added right here, right underneath Alice. And Sam just sent me a message saying, hey, demos are awesome.
Yeah, so you can use it on the same machine, but because of the technologies involved and the way that DIDComm works, it doesn't have to be on the same machine, which is a really powerful both piece of DIDComm, of course, but also running the demo, that if you want to do this with with people that are not, Colton and I are not only not in the same building, we're not even in the same state. And so we live in different states, and it doesn't matter. Anywhere on the internet, this will work without prior configuration or funky stuff to work out.
All right. So could you paint a picture for me in terms of like what this would look like exchanging verifiable credentials, for example? Like, is this already exchanging verifiable credentials? Is this just a secure connection? Could you dive a little deeper into what's actually happening here?
Yeah, so this is just a secure connection, and just to demonstrate the DIDComm technology itself. DIDComm supports protocols that can be designed on top of it, and so on the screen there you'll see several. There's feature disclosure, there's profiles, there's messages that we've been sending, and each of those protocols are designed for something specific. There are protocols that can pass credentials over DIDComm. Issue credential and present proof are the main protocols there. Those are not implemented in this demo. It turns out to be substantially more complicated with how key management happens and a handful of other things. And so we wanted to keep the demo simple and focused on just sort of the basics of DIDComm itself, so that people understood the sort of the underlying technology. And then we'll have other both educational materials and things like that. There's a resource we have at the DIDComm book is a project under creation. That's at book.didcomm.org. And there'll be sections there that, of course, talk about the verifiable credential protocols and understand how to use them. But this hands-on demo is focused just on the basics of DIDComm to help people understand the fundamental underlying mechanism that's being used to communicate.
And to expound on that, how it's a limited feature set, you can see in the feature disclosure here on both sides, there are only 4 protocols being listed. discover features, which is the feature disclosure, trust ping, the basic message, which are the messages we sent back and forth, and user profile, which is what communicates our names to each other.
So there's only 4 protocols actually shown in this demo. There's lots more protocols that exist, and of course, any protocols can be created for any purpose. But just the basics here, showing how that actually works.
Yep.
Colton's pulled up, yeah, here on DIDComm.org. There's the list of protocols for various purposes, and more are being created. I just had a conversation earlier this week with a community that created a set of protocols specific to their technology, and so there's lots being created all the time.
All right, very cool. So if you were to take one of these protocols on the left side of Colton's screen, would it work in the demo if it's using the core technology, or the demo is only set up for these 4?
The messages will pass just fine, but the software, the demo software, won't understand what the messages are. So it'll just display that an unknown message was received, and of course you can see the details on the right-hand side, but it's not going to know what to do with those protocol messages because support for those has not been added to the demo. There is software that understands all these protocols that is created. In the Hyperledger Aries project, there's software that does this, as well as the Verimo project within the diff also has support for DIDComm and for various protocols. So there is software that exists that speaks these things, but the goal of the demo was just to stick with the basics and try to avoid adding too much, so that it would be a good sort of basic understanding tool.
And like you mentioned earlier, Tim, you're asking about verifiable credentials. So if I look at the issue credential here, and if I were to dive into the specification here, grab the type here, so proposed credential, and try to send it across, what we'll see is when I try sending this issue or proposed credential here, even though I don't have all the right body information, when I send that over to Sam, it says unknown message type. So it can kind of work with the stuff. It just won't, everything will be unknown unless someone goes in and modifies it themselves, which we fully encourage people to do. Play with it and find out what you can do with the technology.
So the demo, the modification he's talking about, of course, is the demo here itself. Up in the upper right-hand corner, there's a link to the GitHub repository for the demo, and all of the code that exists as part of that is here. That makes all that happen. It's written in TypeScript, and then also there's the help link that's up next to the GitHub one, and that contains a little bit of a sort of a written description about how you can use the demo and sort of behaviors that it has. And so this you can if you're looking for what you can do with it or how it works or what features to experiment with, then that help link will give you this and then guide you a little bit through the demo yourself.
I think that's a good spot to end the demo section, unless there's anything else you two want to cover.
No, that's a pretty good one. We didn't show all the features the demo has, but we want to keep you in suspense and guide and encourage you to go play with the demo yourself. Go learn about it, and you can see what's really going on under the hood, both with the inspection of the code if you're interested, but also just play with it in the browser to understand the technology and how it works.
Nice. So if one wanted to get started from this demo, how would that kind of work? Can you copy the code underneath the demo, or how do you get started with this?
You can. We're also working on projects that will end up in the DIDComm book as mentioned as a quick start that can help you to understand how to write code on your own machine that does this. I think the first thing that may arrive is a Python script that Colton is working on, which will show you how to run a basic set of code on your own computer to communicate using DIDComm with other parties. It could be the same set of code, but you can also connect it in with the demo. And you can have the Python code running on your computer, communicating with the information or with the browser-based demo as well, because of the way the technology works. So there's some coming guides that are not quite yet there. As they're there, we'll both be able to update the documentation. It would be really fun to show maybe here how that works or the advancements that we've made. The other thing to mention too is that if you're interested in diving into this stuff, particularly for use with verifiable credentials and things like that, there are software projects like I mentioned that do this. So this is not something you have to start from scratch. I mentioned Verimo, I mentioned the Aries projects as well, that are existing tools that make that work.
All right. And yeah, going slightly deeper into that, are there any, live production, maybe products that people could see out in the world that uses DIDComm if they wanted a bit more, example like, oh, it's already implemented in this, go try it out here. And then if you want to play with it yourself a little bit more, the demo has it as well, and you can customize the demo to whatever extent you want.
So the demos, we have a list of features that we'd love to add. We'd love to support more did methods, for example, and a handful of other features. Some syntax highlighting and some other useful things there. There are a bunch of instances of DIDComm being used in production, but it's not as widely known as we'd like. Actually, I'm going to point a finger at Colton here. He had a really good idea earlier this week that the DIDComm community needs to produce a powered by DIDComm badge that can be included both on websites or within products to help people understand that DIDComm is one of the technologies being used to make it happen. And so that's going to take a little minute before we have that ready and can spread it around the community. It is in use within the Polygon ecosystem, and it's used within Hyperledger Aries, of course, which I mentioned, and lots of the Hyperledger Aries projects have production deployments. There are Aries bifold related code bases that you can find in the store. Indicio has one called Holder Plus. And there are others, as well as Aries Cloud Agent Python and Aries Framework JavaScript AFJ are several of the active projects that there are production deployments of. Of course, we're the Indicio people. We have our proven product line, which is built on those open source foundations, and so of course also has the benefits of protocol support in this way. The Aries community is still transitioning, like I mentioned, from DIDComm v1 to DIDComm v2, and the demo is DIDComm v2. That's what it supports. As more and more projects come online over the next several months with DIDComm v2, then you'll be able to directly actually use those products if you wanted to directly with the demo, and you'll be able to see it working back and forth in really cool ways. And we're excited for that to be a common thing that we show.
And one of the things that Sam mentioned was like the whole powered by DIDComm. One of the things about finding technologies that work with DIDComm just out in the wild, it's very hard because it's like finding technologies that use, say, HTTP or various other communication mechanisms. There are video games that use normal HTTP connections to communicate with the backend server, but because it's a video game, you can't see that. Because it's all stuff that happens under the hood, and the same thing applies for DIDComm. You can do so much with it that without knowing what's going on under the hood, it can be completely invisible to you.
The demo we created here is obviously a technical, oriented demo. This is intended for developers and other folks that want to dig into the details. And of course, we like HTTP or WebSockets or any of these sort of fundamental web technologies. We expect that most of the people that actually use products that use this technology won't actually know it, and that's okay. We don't need them to, but the goal is to help developers that want to leverage this technology into their own projects understand where it is and what they might use it with. So more coming on that nature. I think the powered by DIDComm is. I want that on a T-shirt. I want a powered by DIDComm T-shirt. That would be awesome.
I think that would make an excellent T-shirt. I'm picturing
Right?
something in the vein of the Intel Inside, but
DIDComm
nice.
inside.
Exactly.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, no, I think we're kind of coming to the end of our conversation, but I would love to hear, if you can, obviously, basically what you're working on now and any projects that are kind of coming soon for people to look out for. Colton, Sam, is there anything that you think is coming soon enough where it's worth kind of mentioning, like, hey, keep an eye out for this cool new feature?
I think we can tease a little. Yeah, go ahead, Colton.
Well, like Sam went ahead and mentioned, I've been working on a Python script that effectively communicates DIDComm, and you can connect to the DIDComm demo, for instance, create like a bi-directional communicating bot. But the goal of it is to provide a simple example that allows people to send and receive DIDComm messages in any way they would like to, whether it's sending a notification, asking did you really make this banking transaction? Or are you sure you want to spend $10 on that gotcha game? um, but there's so many possibilities with such a technology. For instance, I could run the script on my home computer, have a business card with a DID in the NFC or whatnot. Someone goes ahead and scans this powered by DIDComm business card, and up pops like a messenger window that would be able to communicate with me. There's just, the possibilities are endless as we start to dive more and more into the technology.
Now I need a business card with a DID and an NFC chip on it. That's fantastic.
No, that
That's
sounds
great.
super interesting for sure.
So and that project is cool. That's going to help update community documentation and our trainings in the community, and presentations are going to incorporate that as well. I think we'll probably also produce after the Python version, we'll probably produce like a JavaScript node version of a similar thing, so that people can see it in several different languages. And so that's the stuff that's coming pretty soon. There's other stuff that's cooking more deeply in the background, but this should be coming along with a little bit of a shorter timeline.
Nice. Well, it looks like that is going to bring us to the end of our conversation. I appreciate both of you for taking the time to talk to me again here today. If you at home are interested in learning a bit more about verifiable credential or decentralized identity technology, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. We'll continue to bring you some more educational content or just cool stuff that's happening in the space. Thanks again, Colton and Sam. If people would like to learn a bit more, right, we'll be sure to put a link to the demonstration in the description here. But if you would like to learn a bit more, where would you suggest they look?
There's also a blog post at the diff blog that's blog.identity.foundation that goes into some more detail and talks about that. That's a good read. And then the DIDComm users group also meets weekly, and you can find that information as well on identity.foundation on the site there. If you're interested in joining the users group and working alongside others that are adopting this technology.